All right, welcome everyone. Holding by the book of Leviticus, chapter 17. Again, more welcome everyone. Holding by the book of Leviticus, chapter 17. We're in verse 13, which we started last week. So again, we spoke about I don't know, trapping animals, eating blood. Right. So we'll continue. The Torah says again, book of Leviticus, chapter 17. Verse 13 says, Vishish mi b'nei Yisrael, min agar b'soichom, asher yatzut sayed, or yatzut seid, chaya of, asher yeachel, v'shafach es damo v'kisao ba'ov. So here the Torah says, whatsoever man, that should be the children of Israel, or the strangers that sojourn among you, who hunts and catches any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with earth or with dust. So here again, the Torah says, trap an animal, right? You catch any animal, trapping an animal in general, right? What's the issue? Right? You can't eat it, right? And certainly, or let's say better, you can't eat the blood of it. Now, hunting, we said, for Jews, or non-Jews for that matter, hunting for fun is going to be forbidden, right? That 100% it's going to be forbidden. That's considered cruel, right? So Jews not allowed to hunt over here, but here we're talking about if you're hunting for food, right? You know, if you need this animal for food, let's say, and even so, you can't kill it. You can't eat the blood. If you kill it properly, right, according to Jewish law, for these animals, these birds, you got to cover the blood, right? We'll see what the mitzvah of that, is. But so an animal, hunting an animal for food, that's okay, right? That would be okay. It's pikuach nefesh, like you're saving your life here because you don't have food. But hunting in general, for the sake of hunting, right? You're not going to eat the animal, right? For sure, you're not going to eat the animal. You're trapping the animal or running after the animal for the sake of the chase, but obviously not for the sake of eating it. That'd be forbidden, right? For Jews and non-Jews, why would that be forbidden? It's cruel, right? Chasing after animals to eat is cruel, right? So Rashi said, I don't think we got too far here. Rashi says, just go to Rashi again, that the Torah says who hunts animals, right? Whoever the children of Israel is going to hunt an animal. So Rashi says, I seem to have here only the laws, the blood of hunted beasts and birds caught now by hunting. That must be covered with blood, with earth, with dust. So that's what we're talking about. So how do I know? This applies also to geese and other birds that have been kept in the house, right? Already have been caught, right? You're telling me the Torah says, obviously, this is why you need oral law, because here the Torah says you're hunting and catching any beast, right? Any animal or any bird, you're hunting them. So then Rashi asks, very good, but what about if I already caught them? What if they're already in my house? Does the same thing apply or not? So therefore, Scripture says, who hunts a hunted thing, right? We're going to take this literally, something that is hunted, meaning under any circumstances, whether now or before, right? Whether it's in your house, you got to run after it, or even if it's in the wild, doesn't matter, right? Because what did the Torah tell me? The Torah said, you hunt and catch any beast or fowl or any bird. Very good, right? Any bird, any animal, okay. Where? Where does that apply? Right? Who is that going to apply to? Right? Torah doesn't tell me. Torah just says you hunt an animal. right? That you're gonna eat for food. So again, I would understand, very simple. If you're hunting it for food, you can't hunt it just in general, right? That would be forbidden. Okay, but where are you hunting it? Does that mean just outside, or does it mean even in your house? So Rashi says, if that's he says, where do I know? This applies also to other birds which have been kept in the house, already been caught. Maybe it's only outside. Yeah, so therefore Torah says Yatsud Seit, right? It says Yatsud Seit, someone who surely hunts and catches animals. That's why he uses that language. Who hunts a hunted thing, right? Something that is hunted, which means under any circumstance, whether outside, whether inside, now or before. Very good. So now I understand why he uses that language. Then Rashi says, if that's true, why does the Torah say Asher Yatsu? Why does it say that which you hunt? Let it merely state Asher Yishchat, that which you will kill, that which you're going to ritually slaughter. Right? Why is it talking about hunting over here? But he uses the term hunting. Why? Why, says Rashi, could have just said, you're going to take these animals to kill. Very good. For food. So what are you talking about hunting? To teach that a person should not eat meat except after a lot of preparation. Right? A lot of preparation. And what does that mean exactly? Now, what would I assume over here? I may assume we can never eat meat. As Rashi says, maybe I can only eat meat after hunting. But Rashi explains in the Gemara in Chulin 84a, see Rashi had everything in front of it. He had the entire Torah in front of it. He had all of oral law in front of him. Right? So he says, what does the Gemara say over there? One should not accustom himself to eat meat at all meals. And it should be a real luxury, which requires special preparation, right? Meat or chicken takes preparation, right, than other foods. Because if it was so easy to eat and prepare, and a person would eat it all the time, well, first of all, it's not healthy, right? That's clear. Right? A person ate meat every day, it's not healthy, right? That is true. But if a person ate this luxury, and meat is definitely expensive, right? Expensive here, in states and other places, and prices have jumped, tremendously. But so if you would eat it on a regular basis, could be you reduce yourself to poverty. Eat too much meat, don't do it. Right? Don't do it because, again, it should be a real luxury, which takes special preparation. If it was so easy, you'd eat it all the time. If you ate it all the time, forget about being unhealthy, you'll be poor. Right? If you have plenty of money, okay. But if not, right, person will be in the poorhouse. So therefore, Rashi says, why does he use the term hunting? That a person should not eat meat except after a lot of preparation. So again, what does Rashi, what does Rashi over here, mean? That has to be out of a lot of preparation. What if it's very easy to get the animal? Let's say it would be very easy, right? So therefore, it's already like it's strapped. If it's always to get it, let's say one shot, not too hard, they're not working hard for it, it's already considered trapped. Right, this Chachamim says similar thing from the Gemara in Chulin, that if it was so easy and a person got it on a regular basis and ate meat on a regular basis, become poor. Right, very simply, you become poor because meat's so expensive. Then Rashi says that it may be eaten. Right, he says if you catch any beast or any bird that may be eaten, as opposed to what? What would I think it's coming to exclude? Maybe it's coming to exclude something something that is not so easy to get. Right? That's what I would think. That it's for the sake of what is for food. Right? So again, in general, he's telling you over here, you hunt and catch any beast or birds that may be eaten. Got to be a kosher animal. We'll see what happens. Get a non-kosher animal, but it's talking about a kosher animal. Now, what would I understand? Very simple, as we said before. A fowl that much must be eaten, or let's say better, that may be eaten. If it may be eaten, we're talking about what? We're talking about where you're not hunting just for the sake of hunting, right? Hunting for the sake of hunting is forbidden. One other thing he points out, and he says that which may be eaten, so not just hunting for the sake of hunting, but that which may be eaten, especially mentions to the exclusion of unclean animals, right? And or it says over here, right? Prat lit to me, talking about animals you're not allowed to eat, right? So what does the verse tell me? It says any bird or any animal that you will eat. Well, what's that coming to exclude? An animal you don't eat. What's an animal you don't eat? An unclean animal, right? What we call a behemoth tamea, right? An animal that is unclean. Now, what might have I thought? This way, Chachamim over here says, talking about an unclean animal, what a treifa. What about an animal that there are 18 signs make an animal a treifa? Right, let's say one of them it's got a hole in the membrane of its brain, right? Any of the 18 signs, an animal will not live for you. That's what makes it a treifa. We normally say, or a person thinks, oh, this is treifa, means it's not kosher. No, it's got a specific definition. That's how we sort of use it today. We say, oh, it's treifa, meaning it's not kosher, but here's very specific, right? It means a certain thing that would render the animal unfit to live for a year. Right? There are 18 different signs that the Gemara says, the Mishnah brings out in Chulin that would be forbidden for a person to eat this animal for, different things that potentially happen to this animal. Right? Even if you checked it properly, even if you killed it properly, but you found there was a hole in the head, right? A hole in the membrane of the brain, or there's a hole in his heart, or other things, right? That render it, to be not kosher, even if it was shechted properly, even if it was ritually slaughtered, very good. The problem is, can't eat it straight. So here, says it's very good. If you're telling me it's an impure animal, right, that you're not allowed to eat, it's coming to exclude that. What about treif? What about a treif animal? Yeah, let's say, he says, for example, it's got a hole in the membrane of its brain, right? Or you killed an animal that was a treif. Whatever this animal had that was not going to live out the year, whatever makes it into a treif, right? So why don't you exclude that? Why only come and exclude an impure animal, right? An unclean, let's say, unclean animal. So he says, what's the Torah tell me? Torah tells me at the end of the verse, "V'shafach is damo v'kisal ba'afar." It says you let the blood flow and you cover the blood. Yeah, it tells me that you cover the blood. Yeah, and before in verse 4, same thing. You let the blood flow out and you cover it. Okay, just like over there, it's talking about a ritual slaughter that's not fitting, i.e., you're killing something that you won't be able to eat anyway, even if you ritually slaughter it properly. You still won't be able to eat it. It's just like over there in verse 4, it's talking about a shkrita shenaruya. It's talking about a ritual slaughter. It's not fitting. Why isn't fitting? Because you can't eat it, right? Because the thing is treif, or whatever the case is. Even so, over here, same thing, right? You're burning out the same thing. right? Like a treifa, same thing. In other words, if I have an non-kosher animal, right? Or let's say I have a kosher animal, but something wrong with it. It's got a hole in its stomach or it's got a hole in its head, whatever it may be. It's also shkita shein ruya. It's a ritual slaughter. It doesn't help. It's not fitting. Why isn't it fitting? Because even if you do it with all the right intention, right, and you did it right, and there are no issues with the slaughter, very good. What's the problem? It's got a hole in his head, right? It's got a hole in the membrane of his brain, right? He's not going to live for a year, so it doesn't help, right? Just like over there in verse 4, it's a ritual slaughter. It's not fitting. No point to even ritually slaughter it because it's already treif. Same thing over here. Even so, though, what does the Torah tell me? Torah says at the end of the verse, it says cover the blood. It says cover the blood. If that's true, and you have to cover the blood, okay. Why does it say Asher Yachid? Why does it say you're going to eat it? What's the purpose over here of saying you're going to eat it? You have to tell me there's going to be an animal that you won't be able to eat. What's the animal you don't want to eat? You're not going to be able to eat an impure animal, right? So then there's the whole question. If that's true, I mean, there's a difference of opinion, Rebbe Meir and the Chachomim, right? According to Rebbe Meir over here says, it's coming to exclude that, right? An impure animal seemingly goes against the rabbis. But who's the halacha like? Who do we go like in general? Rabbis against any individual, we go with the rabbis, right? So here, since the Chachomim says, that needs further clarification. What do I have over here? Sounds like a little bit mental gymnastics, yeah? The Rashi here says, right? That's why I have to keep your head on straight here. Rashi over here says that what? That animal which you're going to eat. Now, what's an animal you won't eat? What's an animal not possible to eat, even if you slaughter it properly? An impure animal, right? I.e., a pig or anything else you would ritually slaughter, right? A camel, who knows what else you would slaughter, right? Or a treifa, or an animal that even if you ritually slaughtered it's kosher animal, but the problem is there's something inside that renders the animal be treif. So, it comes on Sisei Chachomim and says, why you tell me about an impure animal? Why you coming to exclude that? What about treifa? What about an animal that you can't ritually slaughter, right? You're not allowed to slaughter it because, there's a problem inside the animal. He says, this I already know before in verse 4, right? That says you got to cover the blood. You got to cover the blood for an animal that's fitting to be slaughtered or a bird that's fitting to be slaughtered. So just like over there, I can't ritually slaughter an animal or bird. It's not fitting to be slaughtered. So too over here, right? I'll say you can't do it, right? You wouldn't be allowed to do it because no point. Because if you ritually slaughter it, you're never going to eat it. But the Sisei Chachamim say, very good, right? Very good, but there's only one problem. Maybe you're going to tell me it's coming to exclude that, and it's coming to exclude an animal that you can't eat. Why is it saying an animal you're going to eat? That'd be implicit. That'd be something I already know. So why does it come to tell me that? Why does the Torah tell me that? In order to say, like Rashi said, right? It's coming to exclude impure animals. But if that's true, that's only going according to one opinion in the Gemara. It's not going according to the Chachomim. Not going according to the rabbis. Very good. So why pick that? Don't we go according to the majority? Right? The rabbis are the majority. Right? So why only pick that? You could have picked up, he could have said, well, maybe the animal's a treifa also. Could have said that as well. And then he says, that needs further clarification. Right? That needs further clarification. So here I got seemingly an innocent statement that when the Torah says that which your animal you are going to eat, right? Who's it coming to exclude? Who's it coming to exclude over here? It's coming to exclude an animal you can't eat. What animal? Right? What animal can't you eat? Right? What animal can't you eat? They tell me two types of animals I can't eat, right? One of them is going to be an animal that's an impure animal that Torah says I can't eat, right? That's one animal. There's a second animal, right? What's the second animal? Second animal is a treif. Second animal is not a kosher animal, right? So not so Not so simple. Not so simple over here. 1 second. All right, 1 second here. Yeah, so somebody asked me to take a question here. Or two. Yeah, that's how Rashi explained. What happens? What happens? Um, starving or injured dog or cat happens to come to your house. You see them on the street. It's a mitzvah to help them. You can try and help them. Yeah, you don't want the animal to suffer, right? You can definitely try and help it. There are mitzvah to help it. Why not? You don't have to sit there and let it die. It depends what you can do. If it's already too far gone, then there's really not much to do. If you could help, good. Why not? You can say, well, I could be busy doing other things. Yeah, it could be. Could be. Right? It's an injured animal. Even better. Let's say it's on the street. Ends up, in your property. What do? Try to help it. And even for a non-Jew, even, as part of the no-hide laws. No reason to allow it to suffer. You see what you can do. If you can't do anything, you can't do anything. Right? But also putting, are you allowed to kill an animal? Right? This question comes up a lot. Animals dying or sick. The animal obviously is suffering. Can you put it to sleep? So better have a non-Jew do it than by a Jew. The question, here's a question by a Jew. By a Jew, it should be forbidden. It should be forbidden. Even if the animal is suffering. The whole question. Whether a Jew be allowed to do it. A non-Jew should be allowed to do it. Again, you're not just killing the animal because you just want to kill the animal. But, if the animal's suffering, it's no mitzvah. First of all, there's no mitzvah to do any heroics. An animal's an animal. What happens if, a dog or a cat gets cancer or something, or, they got hit by a car and they'll never recover, right? Or you'd have to pay a fortune, surgeries and this and that. There's no obligation. Certainly no obligation. If someone wants to, they can. They want to try and save its life, okay. Is there a mitzvah to save its life? Depends. If the animal's sick and old, and the animal's going to die anyway, at some point, no mitzvah to hang on to it. Because the opposite is worse. See the animal suffering, who wants to see an animal suffer, right? Especially a pet. So therefore, what could you do? Therefore, you could have it killed, right? Because it's suffering. Now, is it better? Can a non-Jew do it? Yes. Seemingly, that's the consensus. Non-Jew would be allowed to. A Jew would not be allowed to. A Jew should not be allowed to kill it, right? If it's suffering, probably a Jew could do it also. All right, better have a non-Jew do it. What should be done with the meat? Well, if it's a treif animal or it's an impure animal, non-Jew can eat it. Jew can't eat it. What happens if there's a ritual slaughter? Let's say of a cow, make it easy. Let's say of a cow, and that cow is found to be treif, or that cow, let's say normally, what do we say? That we don't do trabering. Traber means taking out the gitanosha, taking out the sciatic nerve, right? There are very few people know how to do it properly, and today it would take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and a person would probably charge a fortune to do it. It's a skill that's pretty much been lost in this generation. So meat prices would even be higher if they did that. So what do they do? They take the hind side and they sell it. They sell it for pennies on the pound, right, so to speak, to a non-Jew. Right? Not going to get it for free, but they'll get it very cheap. They'll get it very, very cheap because it's not worth the effort. Definitely not worth the effort. So in this case, if the animal is an unclean animal, right, as the Torah says, or it's a treif, or let's say, it's got a sign that's going to die. It's going to die within a year. Then what do? We say that it can be given to a non-Jew. Non-Jew can eat it. What's the problem? Right? What's the problem? The person will say, I don't want to eat non-kosher. Why not? Doesn't affect you. Right? Placebo effect. By a Jew, if they eat non-kosher, it's called what the Gemara says, metamtam esalev. Right? Playing the word netamtem, they're playing the word tame, impure. Right? It dulls the heart. Doesn't apply to a non-Jew. All the time, I want to keep kosher, forget about conversion. Non-Jews will say, I want to keep kosher, it's better for me. Who says better for you? Kliyakar, right? In Leviticus, I think chapter 10 or chapter 11, says over there that a non-Jew is not going to do anything, there's no benefit. Right? So he says, you see that non-Jews eat all kinds of creepy crawly things, nothing happens to them, doesn't affect them. If you see it doesn't affect them, then why would they do it? This is no effect. It's like a placebo effect. If it's a placebo effect, it doesn't do anything to a non-Jew soul, there'd be no point to do it. Right? A non-Jew, let's say better. Kuyakar says, a non-Jew wouldn't do it. You're not going to do something that doesn't make sense. Doesn't have an effect, doesn't have a purpose. That doesn't have a purpose to them. Right? So therefore, a non-Jew could eat it. Not a problem. Right? So if that animal is treif or died, let's say, even before, as it's being ritually slaughtered, before it's ritually slaughtered fully, the animal has a heart attack and died, before it was killed. Yeah, before it was ritually slaughtered. Yeah, so then, that's what we call nevela. Nevela is carrion, right? It dies from something else. Dies of a heart attack, dies, I don't know, ran full steam into a wall. Right, crushed all its bones and died. Right, it died without ritual slaughter. Right, so basically, the meat can be given to a non-Jew, cannot be given to a Jew. Jew can't eat it. Forbidden for a Jew. So now the question is, someone asks, so what's ritual slaughter? So ritual slaughter means you have a kosher animal. Let's say a bird, kosher bird. Chicken. We have a tradition on, turkey. Almost any type of chicken. Turkey, deer, a cow, let's say. So what do? So ritual slaughter takes a very, very sharp knife. Very, very sharp knife. Extremely sharp. And they get the animal down, right? They have to get the animal down. And, obviously it doesn't move. And and what'll happen? You got to get it down. It doesn't move, otherwise, slaughter might not be kosher. But basically, they hold the animal down, they expose the neck, and the ritual slaughter goes in with this very sharp knife to keep this clean. Basically, the ritual slaughter takes the knife, pushes it in, hits the trachea and the windpipe at the same time. Right? In other words, makes a clean swipe, so to speak. And we hold that really the head should come off at the same time. Again, keep this clean. Won't get gross here, so the blood can drain out. But basically, the knife is razor sharp. So it'll hit the trachea and the windpipe at the same time. And the animal will die instantaneously. Right? That's what ritual slaughter is, instantaneous. Now, any group out there that is going to say that ritual slaughter is cruel, they 100% are anti-Semites. Now, why do I say they're anti-Semites? Because this ritual slaughter is much more humane than anything else out there. Because the animal died, the animal does not feel any pain. Doesn't feel any pain. Once the windpipe and the trachea get hit, they get cut, animal's consciousness dies on the spot. Usually on the spot. Sometimes it'll flail a little bit, but it's basically going to die. It's going to die on the spot. Now, there was a whole question years ago in Switzerland. There was a whole question. They wanted to ban ritual slaughter. And because obviously they said it was cruel. They wanted to ban it. So they only allowed Jews to ritually slaughter if they stun the animal first. Now, can you imagine? You put this thing on top of the animal's head, you fry its brain, right? But you can't fry its brain because if you fry the brain, you make it into a treifa, right? You wouldn't be able to ritually slaughter it. So they had to know pretty much how much juice to give it that it wouldn't die. Now, why is that not cruel? The animal doesn't die. You're frying the animal, you're stunning the animal. I mean, I can't think of too many things that are much crueler than that. You put this thing on top of the animal and he's like sizzling. Not literally, but he's sizzling. And then you could go in and ritually slaughter. So the 3 Dayesh, Rabbi Chil Weinberg, of blessed memory, wrote a very long response, extremely long response to whether this is permissible or not. Right? And I remember I went through most of it years ago. So if I remember correctly, he says like this, that in such a case, even if they gave it a minimal amount of juice, it can have an effect on the inner organs. In other words, they found some inner organs that were totally fried. Even if they didn't give it so much juice, they found, let's say, that the I don't know, kidneys were fried, or the liver, just like they totally got fried. Maybe sometimes the brain got fried, could be. But basically, he came to the conclusion and said that even if you give it enough juice, it doesn't die, right? Let's say, because you can't kill it, that's forbidden, right? You can't ritually slaughter it after it's dead. That doesn't help you, right? It's already dead. So therefore, if you slaughter it, let's say better, if you give it a certain amount of juice, even if it doesn't die, you just stun it. He says you can't know for sure what it does to inside the body. In other words, it could take certain organs and destroy them, make it into a treifa. So he says, based on that, he said you can't do it. It's forbidden. Now, there's a whole nother question. The other question is, why would he even come up with this? Because what's the obvious question? It's cruel. You're frying the animal. You're not killing it. You're stunning it. Why isn't that cruel? Right. So in this case, the issue is that he was asked the question. You have no other way, according to the law, according to the government, and according to the law, there's no other way to ritual slaughter except to stun it first. Now, he could have said, forget about it. It's cruel, right? It's cruel to animals, to stun it first. But that's the only way they'd be allowed to ritually slaughter. So he was answering the question according to the fact, is it okay? Is there any issues with the ritual slaughter over here? So what was his conclusion? Right? I'll cut to the chase. It was extremely long responsive, but I'll cut to the chase. What was the answer? The answer is you don't know necessarily what it does to the inner organs. Because you don't know what it does to the inner organs, you can't take the chance. Because let's say in one day, you're going to slaughter, let's say, I don't know, 60 cows. You're going to take 60 cows and slaughter them. Very good. Now, what if there's a very good chance, very good percentage that most of those cows can't eat? That's a tremendous loss. Because now, if it's treif, what do? You have to give it to non-Jews, right? It's sell it to them, and they're going to buy it on pennies on the pound because you can't eat it, right? Or pennies on the dollar, or whatever, right? You're gonna lose a tremendous amount of money. This is why, ritual slaughters have to have a tremendous amount of fear of heaven, because they know if they mess up or something happens, they're costing the owner of these animals or whoever's selling the meat, they're causing them a loss. A cow's expensive, got a 600-pound cow, let's say, tremendous amount of meat. That cow's treif. Let's say that cow becomes treif. Can't eat it. You lost 1 out of 60. It's a significant loss. It's thousands of dollars lost. So in this case, if if it's not a small percentage, this could happen to, right? I mean, a real small percentage, that's not worth it. Because whoever owns the cows and they're going to make money from the meat, if a third of those cows are trafe or potentially trafe, they ain't doing it. They are not going to do it, even if 10%. 10% is a huge loss, humongous loss. They're not going to take the chance. So I remember in the back of my mind when I went to this ritual slaughterhouse in South America, in Chile. I stayed a little bit after. I want to say, okay, they claim, some people claim, not all countries, but there are countries that will not allow ritual slaughter. Right? And again, it's only because they're anti-Semites, because it's totally not cruel at all. They have no excuse why not. But okay, I said, let me see how the non-Jews do. Let me watch a few times how the non-Jews do it. Let's see how pure, how quick, how painless what they do is. So I'm not going to go into details. These cows, all I can tell you is they were screaming, they were bellowing, they were hacking at this animal till it died. That's not cruel. The animal's suffering to no end, right? Suffering to no end. That's not cruel. Oh, but ritual slaughter, that is cruel. Come on. You take a razor sharp knife. I wouldn't tell anyone to do this at home, but you take a razor sharp knife. You hit the windpipe in the trachea, that animal dies instantaneous. Instantaneous. Yeah, it could flap around a little bit, but it's going to die instantaneously. It's not going to feel any pain. How can that be cruel? And hacking at is better? Hacking at this animal, cutting it apart till it dies, that's pretty cruel. That is pretty cruel. I watched one, I'm not going to stick around to see the next one. I mean, that was just horrific. Horrific. So basically, basically what you have is, if anyone is going to say that ritual slaughter, what Jews do, is cruel, then they're anti-Semites. They have to be anti-Semites. Because if they know how ritual slaughter is really done, it's not cruel at all. Now, you can tell me maybe they don't keep the animals in the most humane way. Maybe. Okay, it doesn't, but that has nothing to do with the ritual slaughter, right? I'll give one example: veal. A lot of Jews won't eat kosher veal. Why? Because the animal's put in a box. I don't know if things have changed or not, right? But I remember that the question was, they're put in a box. They can't move around too much, so when they slaughter them, their meat's a lot tender. So that's cruel. That is cruel, right? They're doing it so the meat will be more tasty. Okay. Now, I'll ask you the $1 million question, and that is, if a person did that and they slaughtered it, it's properly ritually slaughtered for a Jew, can they eat it? Yes. They can eat it. It's ritually slaughtered. It's properly slaughtered. But you're going to tell me, come on, morally, how could you eat it? This animal is suffering. This animal's kept like in a box and can't move. So the meat will be tender. So you're right, it's a moral issue. But the moral issue does not say, well, if I ritually slaughter, I can't eat it. It's a moral issue. There are Jews who won't eat it for that reason. Now, it doesn't mean it's not a kosher animal. Doesn't mean the ritual slaughter is not good. But it's how the animal's kept. Now, shouldn't there be a higher standard of how animals are kept? Yeah. Right? There's a very big question if animals suffer, is it Torah prohibition or rabbinic prohibition? Right? Very strong side to say it's a Torah prohibition. Now, even if it's a rabbinic prohibition, this applies to non-Jews? Absolutely. Non-Jews not allowed to be cruel to animals. In either case. So people could say, well, I saw a place that ritually slaughtered, I saw the animals weren't kept well, this and that. That's a problem. That doesn't nullify it, per se. Doesn't nullify it. If it's ritually slaughtered, it's kosher. Now, could a plant get shut down for that? I don't know about that. It depends what they do. There have been issues. Okay. right? Nobody's perfect. Maybe they keep them, however they keep them. Maybe they got good reason to do what they do. I'm not here to judge. Point is that if it's ritually slaughtered properly, even if they were abused, let's say, so it's Torah prohibition. Most likely it's Torah prohibition to treat animals cruelly. Okay, right? That's cruelty to animals. Very good. Torah prohibition. But guess what? If it's ritually slaughtered properly, I can eat it. Now, a person would say, is that a moral issue? It's a big moral issue. Yeah. But it doesn't say anything against the kashrus of the animal. The animal's kosher. The animal could have, could have all the best things about it. There aren't any questions. No, no holes in the lungs, no perforations, no nothing. Came out 100%. Further say, I wouldn't want to eat such a thing. Okay. Right? That could be true. A person wants to hold a higher standard. They hear the way they're keeping them is not good, and it's cruel to them. Okay. So don't eat them. Right? So in that case, the person wouldn't have to eat them. Very good. Someone have to hold to that standard? I don't know. Do I have to ask questions? Let's ask that. Would I have to ask questions about this? Would I have to do research to see how they treat them? I don't know if you have to. Probably better off not knowing. Right? And assuming that you're relying on rabbinic supervision, tell you that, let's say by meat, that the meat's kosher. Now, according to that, that's, rabbinic organization, they totally mistreat their animals. People won't eat it. Most people probably would eat it if they found that out until they change, right? Until they change the standards. But technically speaking, if a person ate it, it's kosher. Why is it kosher? Because again, it's a moral issue. It's not a kashrus issue. You're telling me what they're doing could render it a trait for this and that. Okay, that's a different issue. Right? I'll give an example. Right? It was in South Africa, and he has his own brand of shkita, of ritual slaughter. So by birds, by chickens, he made them check the lungs. Now, normally, checking the lungs only by cows. Usually it's only by cows because cows have a higher percentage that there could be a problem with the lungs. It could be some sort of perforation in the lungs. What they do is they cut open the lungs and put on this huge machine, and they blow up the lungs, and you have to go in there and see if there are any perforations. I mean, I never saw lungs so big in my life when everyone else in South America, but okay, someone's got to do it. Right? Make sure there are no perforations. By chicken, it's usually never the case. Right? And the only reason you ever check a chicken for the lungs is if you say there's a meat the matzu. There's a certain amount that they found that the lungs were perforated. Right? So normally you don't have to check. Right? So here in Israel, other places, they don't check the lungs of a bird, of a let's say of a chicken. Okay. So my Rebbe said, check them. I want you to check the lungs. They thought it was crazy. Came from Israel, you're so stringent and this and that. He goes, check them. Just check them, just to make sure. So he found there were 40%. 40% of the chickens that were slaughtered had a perforation of the lungs, which renders it treif. 40%. That's not a small percentage. That's not a mere matzu. That's not a small amount that's found. This is a 40%. So I asked him when I heard about this. I said, "How'd you know?" I said, "How'd you know it's got that? It was that high?" So he laughed. He said, "I thought it was higher. I thought the percentage was higher." I said, "How'd you know?" I said, "How'd the Rav know?" So he said, "I saw how they kept them." He said it wasn't possible according to nature. They shouldn't all be treif. They shouldn't, the way they raised them, however they raised them, there was good reason to suspect that their lungs would be perforated. He said, I would have thought it was 100%, much higher percentage. He said, okay, I found 40%. That's good enough. Yeah. That means, you can't raise them any way you want. You got to make sure things don't happen. There's a responsibility of those that raise them. It's another problem. They force feed them a lot. So they turn these chickens, they're extremely big and plump after, I don't know, maybe a month, maybe less. They force feed them, so they become these huge things, but they can't walk. Imagine, okay, you grow, you learn how to walk, this, that. You take someone that can barely, it's very young, very small. You force feed it, right? You force feed it. What happens? So it grows very big, very quickly, very, very quickly. Now, what can happen if you let it walk? If you let it just, like walk around, what's going to happen? It can dislocate the sinews in the legs, right? We call it the gita nosha. They can dislocate it. You dislocate it, in a bird. Bird's easier to check, right? They don't have as many sinews as a cow. Sciatic nerves by the cow we don't eat, right? As we said before, we don't traber because it's pretty much a lost art. Even if you had someone do it, it costs a fortune to do, right? So we just give the hind to a to an anju. Very good, but by chickens, okay, they have smaller ones and they're not as many, right? There's not as many, but if they're overstuffed and they can't walk, they start to walk, they get injured. They could injure their leg. They could, pull it out of whack or whatever the case is. So that's the problem, right? Rabbi Yoshev, blessed memory, had stories that he only ate chicken. He had a personal ritual slaughter, i.e., a shochet, and he made the chicken walk in front of him to see. If the chicken like stumbled this and that, he wouldn't take it, right? For this reason, for exactly this reason. So normally, in a normal case, would you ever check the lungs of a bird? No, unless you feel it's necessary, right? Because if it's a minority that it happens to and it's not common, so we don't worry about it, right? It's a general rule in kashrus in that case, right? We say, right, if it's a midday matzui, it's a small amount that we don't find. That's not common. Very good. If it's not common, I don't have to worry about it, right? In most cases, it's not common. So therefore, most, kashrus organizations will not check. They will not check birds, chickens, whatever. They won't check their lungs. So my Rebbe got to South Africa, they thought it was crazy. They're like, go back to Israel. What are you doing with all these stringencies, this and that? Forget it. You don't check. Nobody here checks, right? To me, it's ain't a matzui. We don't find such a thing. It's a small percentage, if anything, not common at all. He goes, great, check them. I want you to check him. And he found 40%. 40%. That's not a small amount. That's definitely not a small amount. Someone asked, very good. Kosher slaughter include a type of prayer. Yeah. When they're gonna slaughter a whole bunch of birds. Or cows or both. I don't think that's right. Most places don't do they do one or the other. Birds can do a lot more, much quicker, right, than cows. But in either case, you make one blessing. You make one blessing for the whole day, right? And that is the blessing on Shechita, right? That God commanded us to do ritual slaughter, right? But you only make one blessing. And you can talk in between, afterwards or whatever, but it's all on one group of animals, right? Basically one group of animals that you're going to slaughter. So yeah, there is a blessing for that. Covering up the blood, there is no blessing. I don't think there's a blessing on that. Let me just check that. Oh, there is a blessing, right? There is a blessing. That's what I thought. And the blessing is, blessed are you, God, King of the universe, commanded us on covering up the blood with earth, right? That is That is the blessing. And he says the blessing, so therefore you have either straw or dirt or whatever that's going to cover it up. And then he drips some blood onto it, covers up. So you got birds, animals, even let's say harts, deers, gazelles. A hybrid's good question. Right, a hybrid's an animal that is bred of both the domestic and wild animals. So that's the question whether you make a blessing on. So we don't make a blessing on that. Interesting, by a buffalo, it's considered a domestic animal. We don't cover the blood, right? Non-kosher birds, you don't also. Right, if it died by itself or was a trophy, you don't cover the blood. But there is a blessing. Yeah, there is a blessing. There is a blessing on covering up the blood. Someone says, I heard some rabbi in Australia did approve studying animal before. I don't know. That I don't know. I'm telling you what the 3-day said. 3-day said no. He said you're not allowed. Could be there's a difference of opinion, right? Difference of opinion, but I think that in Switzerland they followed what he said, right? Could there people disagree? Could be. Could be. I know of his opinion, so I mean, I have to see if that's the general accepted opinion, but I know that was a big issue back in the day, and that's what he held, and they didn't do it. The same thing, Iraq, poor animals fighting for its life. Yeah, what is to be done with a kosher animal as living with abnormalities? Depends if it's really suffering. Yeah, if it's really suffering, you kill it. No mitzvah to let it suffer. Again, I would say have a non-Jew do it, not a Jew. If it doesn't affect the animal, let's say, they can live with it. Maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but they can live with it, but it's not, really, not suffering enough or whatever. Then I'll probably say no. It depends. Depends what the abnormality is. Right? If animals in general, I'm just gonna say that, we're not gonna do heroics here to keep them alive. They're an animal. Right? If you had an animal that was like tremendously malformed, let's say they'll kill it. What's the point of keeping it alive? I mean, unless they want to test it for different things, and because it has so many abnormalities. Yeah, say that 5 times fast. Maybe they want to do some experimentation on it. I don't know. Right, but yeah, if it's really severely deformed, I don't think they're going to keep it alive. Definitely don't think they're going to keep it alive. What would be the point? The animal's just gonna, animal's gonna suffer. You can have animals, let's say, born without a leg, I don't know, without an ear, without some other parts of the body. You keep the animal alive. Don't put, just because it doesn't have a leg doesn't mean it can't live, right? Per se. That extra suffering. I don't know if we'd say that you have to put it to sleep for that. Depends. Depends what the abnormalcy is. Right? If if the animal has like a lot of different things going on, that no mitzvah to keep it alive, right? Because the animal's going to suffer. The animal's going to suffer to no end. So keeping it alive is no mitzvah. No mitzvah per se. Also, again, the animal gets older. Let's say the animal gets, I don't know, gets cancer, gets something else. It's going to cost you a fortune to try and save its life. You can put it down, right? There's no mitzvah to do that. Some people say animals have rights, this and that. Okay, you want to fork over $5,000 to save its life? It's an animal. I understand, grew up in your house, it's 10 years old, you've had great times together. Okay, I get it. I definitely get it, but bottom line, do you have to fork over that kind of money, save its life? No, definitely not. Now, could you? Could. People do all kinds of crazy things. Could do that. would a person get like unbelievable mitzvah for doing it? That I can't say. Probably better thing to spend your money on. But it's an animal, you know. So better put the animal down, even if it's relatively young, because the animal's just going to suffer. Instead, if it's already older, this and that's easier, right? It's easier. What happens, you got animals 2 years old. Yeah. 2, 3 years old, comes down with some dreaded disease. Yeah, but yeah, you have to do surgery and this and that. It's gonna cost you a ton of money. Who says you have to do it? You're not a mitzvah to do it. I would think just the opposite. Person forked over that kind of money to save the animal. They could have used that money for other things. Better charities and different things. Then yeah, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of money saving an animal. Animals don't have rights in that sense. They're animals. No offense. But the animal's sick. You don't have to go through heroics to save it. You definitely not. That's what I would say. But again, if it's kosher animal that has abnormalities, yeah. So for kosher animal, you're not going to ritually slaughter it. People won't eat it. If you don't tell anyone, but if they probably won't slaughter it, right? Probably wouldn't slaughter it. So we're not going to use it for the meat. I don't know. You keep it alive. The question is, why are you going to keep it alive for? You want to breed it, but it's got all these abnormalities. You're not going to breed it, let's say. So the whole question, what would be the purpose? But if it's got a lot of deficiencies, and with these abnormalities, they are suffering, yeah, there's no mitzvah to keep them alive. There's no mitzvah to keep them alive. Yeah, so that a cat with leukemia. Okay. Listen, that if you can keep it on medication, it's not going to cost a lot. Okay. You can do that. I'm saying, what if it needs surgery? I know someone whose dog's eventually going to, probably need surgery to save its life. Dog's already 13. First of all, they don't really have the money to do it, right? But it's going to let it live out its life. Not going to do any heroics over here. I don't know. It's on some medication. I don't know exactly, but yeah, if that would be the case, it's not going to cost an arm or a leg. So you try and keep try and keep it alive. I'm saying though, if you had to do surgery and it's going to cost a fortune, who's going to do it? Who says you? So let's say better. Who says you have to do it? Who says there's an obligation to do it? Person had all the money in the world, they want to do it. Okay. My question would be, if a person had that kind of money and they were going to do it and it cost a lot, are they going to be held accountable for not helping others who need it? Now, if you tell me, like someone could say, maybe this animal is a therapy animal. You have therapy animals out there, right? People need it for whatever reason. So you need a therapy animal. Uh, um, that being the case, I don't know. I would say that a person can be held accountable, right? They can for sure be held accountable. Because again, let's say for argument's sake, it would cost $10,000 to save this animal's life. I don't care if the animal's young, old, whatever it is. It's going to cost you $10,000 to save this animal's life. The person says, they'll scrape the money together, do it, save the animal's life. Because that money be used for something else. So, if you tell me the animal needs to be saved, it's a therapy animal, kids need it, the adult needs it, or whatever, do whatever it takes to save it because it's helping them. Okay, that I could hear. That I could hear. That I could hear. Right? Or get another therapy done, or a cat, or whatever. Right? But just thinking out loud, think about it. You're giving this money to the dog, to save the dog's life. We really don't have to. That money could have gone to something else. Could have gone to help, needy brides, orphans, Jewish schools. if I were playing God, it's a good question. It's a good question. Is that wasted money? Is that money that they could have used on something better than trying to save their pet? There is what to be said for that. I understand it's a pet and pets are well loved and they don't talk back in this and they're good for companionship, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But is that money well spent? That's the question. That is the question. So there could be a claim against that, person will get upstairs after 20 years after they die, and God could say, look, you saved the dog's life. Okay. But, maybe that money could have been better, used better somewhere else. And if he accepts the excuse why he did it and he's okay with it, okay. If not, he's going to say he wasted money. It was a dog, right? Even if it was part of the family, this and that. You don't go through heroics. You don't have to go through heroics. That money could be spent well other places. Could very well be, right? I'm not saying that's necessarily the case. I'm just saying it could be. And I would make the case stronger by saying the dog is already old. Let's say it's a dog. Yeah, if the dog is already old, then how much longer is the dog going to live? The dog's already 13, 14, 15. The dog's not going to live that much longer. But let's say it was done. Dog lived another 3, 4 years. Yeah. That money well spent. That's the question. That is the question. Somewhere mentions therapy dogs are very expensive. Yeah. Yeah. So again, therapy dog may be different. Therapy dog, you might do whatever you can to save because therapy dogs have a purpose. They have a very strong purpose, right? They're saving someone. They're helping someone. No question about it. So yeah, that might be very different. But most people know my take on on pets, and I think people go way overboard. Definitely way overboard. If it's for therapy, something else, okay. But I would think if it's not a therapy dog, and they forked over all kinds of money, to save the dog's life where they didn't really have to, it could be a claim. There could be a very strong claim against them that they wasted money on that when they could have helped other organizations or people or whatever. Again, is that the case? I don't know. God will have to judge it. God will have to judge it. But I would say that that could be a question. That could be a question. All right. Let's go a bit further here. It comes on the Ibn Ezra. Now the Ibn Ezra here says, he said like this. He said the fact that Torah says you can't eat blood, because blood, where's blood going to go on the altar, right? It's there for atonement, right? So we have a command not to eat blood. We've seen that because blood only goes on the altar. But what about the blood of other animals, right? Let's see, a deer or a bird. Let's say not all birds go on the altar per se, right? So then a person might make a mistake and say, "Oh, this blood's permissible, so this other blood might be permissible also." But he says the person shouldn't think that if he sees the blood, what did he slaughter the animal for? What did he kill it for? Idolatry. Maybe he killed it for that. If you tell me the blood's going on the altar, maybe a person thought that's what they were doing. Right? So he says I'm going to explain that later. A different place, the book of Deuteronomy. We get there one day. Comes on the Baal HaTurim, son of the Rosh. The Baal HaTurim says, the blood of a bird and domesticated animal needs to be covered. Why does it need to be covered? Because they don't go on the altar. Right? They don't normally go on the altar. So he says, why now? What's the purpose here? Why is it important? He says, so you don't have midas adin, God's attribute of justice, come and claim. The blood's going to eat blood, therefore you're obligated to cover it. In other words, Torah says you got to spill out the blood, you got to cover it with dirt. That's only talking about specific animals, right? That's only talking about specific animals that require the blood to be covered, because these animals aren't going to go on the altar, right? If the animal's not going to go on the altar, what am I worried about? What am I worried about? So you killed the animal and the blood doesn't get covered. So now you're gonna have blood and blood. You're not gonna make any distinction. So comes along the Balatorium and says, very interesting. He says you could arouse the ire, the anger of the Midas Adin, of God's attribute of justice. And he could claim, look, blood's eating blood, therefore he said to cover it. In other words, kill the animal, blood is all over the place. Not fitting for the blood to be all over the place. Why? Because essentially, where's the blood going? It should go on the altar. But if it's an animal you're not going to eat, where does the blood go? It goes on the ground. Very good. But the blood has a certain level of holiness because the blood is in the soul. The soul is in the blood, let's say. So therefore, you can't have it uncovered. Therefore, that could invoke God's character trait of justice, right over here. And therefore, you have a command to cover it because of embarrassment here. If the soul, imagine, I've spoken about this a lot. If the soul is in the blood, and now the animal dies, right? Animal dies, you kill the animal, whatever it is. And let's say better. You ritually slaughter the animal, very good. But then you leave the blood all over the place. You're going to say, big deal. What's the big deal about covering the blood? Why should I have to cover the blood? What would be the purpose? Because the soul is in the blood. So when the animal dies, where's the soul? I mean, okay, it's the animalistic soul that goes out, fine, but it goes out in the blood. So if the soul goes out in the blood, again, just have it anywhere, right? In other words, if it goes on the ground, you say, okay, so it went on the ground, big deal, right? It has to be covered, right? Because the soul of the animal is in the blood, right? The soul of the person's in the blood. So therefore, it's going to get God angry, right? He's going to say, oh, look, you ritually slaughtered this animal, and the soul was in the blood, so how can you leave the blood uncovered? And a lot of halachas here, I'm not going to go into covering blood per se, right? But in general, that blood has to be covered. The other blood goes on the altar. Very good. Not this blood. This blood isn't covered. And this blood's not covered. The blood's part of what? Part of the soul. Soul goes in the blood. Very good. That's going to tick God off. Why? Because the soul's in the blood. How can you leave the soul uncovered? How is it possible to leave the soul uncovered? That's mean. The soul is in the blood. You leave it uncovered? You just leave it, let it go in the ground? Let it go in the dirt? Right? You don't cover it. It's not special. You make a blessing on it. You don't do anything. Says the Balatorium, that could take him off. Right? That could take off. I mean, God's carried the soul. He just let it, spill out, and that's it. Because the Torah says, Shafches Damo, if you spill out the blood, the end of the verse here, it says, V'kisahu be'afar, you have to cover it with dirt. Or he says, so translated here with dust, but it's really dirt. You got to cover it with earth. It's got to be buried. Right? It's got a certain level of holiness. Why does it have any holiness at all? Because the soul was in the blood. The animal's not here anymore. Right? Soul's not here anymore. Very good. Doesn't matter. That could tick off God and bring about his character trait of justice. Because he says, really, the blood's supposed to be on the altar to atone. Very good. But not these animals. So what do you do with the blood? I'll just leave the blood. Who cares? Wash it off, whatever. No. You have a mitzvah. You make a blessing. You cover it. Right? Again, there are halachas. What you used to cover it. What happens if it gets uncovered? Let's say you took straw or you took earth or whatever. You cover it, the wind blows and takes, moves it. You got to cover it again. You got to cover it a third time. If it happened 5 times, you have to go back and cover it. Right? Otherwise it could be a blessing in vain over here. But that could get God's irony. Right? Not irony, but, it could get him angry. Right? So to speak. So someone asks, the blood covered with dirt, right? It's covered with dirt. It's covered with, I don't know, a lot of things. Potentially that is covered with dirt. What is it over here? Dirt, straw. What other things it's used? Not water. I don't think it's water. Yeah, with earth or straw. Earth or straw. So it has to be ready. In other words, you have to have it prepared before. Right? So you can cover it straight away. Now, could it be other things? Let me see here. Yeah, if the wind blows off, then you got to cover it again, right? You don't have to cover it again. Question is, you have to prepare it. You have to prepare the dirt and say, this is the dirt I'm going to use to cover the blood. It's a good question. According to everybody, it does. But if you didn't, let's say it wasn't, you didn't have this blood total, this earth prepared to cover the blood, you still fulfill your obligation if you use any earth. Whatever, but there are a lot of halachas there. How much of the blood needs to be covered? So you don't necessarily need to cover all the blood, but even if you cover only a drop of it, that should be enough, according to one opinion. But you should wait until all the blood begins to drip so you can cover, so you can definitely cover it. When the air is brought down, you don't have to, even one drop of blood, if it's covered, is good enough, right? That would be, I guess, that would be, that if you did it that way, okay, that's probably better to cover, as much as as much as you can. Now, does the shochet, is he the only one that has to do it? Right, the ritual slaughter, the only one who does it, he gives it to other people to do. Some say no, since he's the one who's doing it, he's the one doing the slaughter, so he's the one who has to do it. Whatever, there are laws. There are laws, definitely. Governing that. Somebody asks, so the animal doesn't go back to Hashem, then it might be even harder for someone to let go of beloved family pet. I don't know about that. If it doesn't, I guess the person would feel better, right? A person would feel better knowing that the animal goes, that the soul is going somewhere else. Okay. Yeah, that I could hear. That I could hear. But someone here mentions might be even harder for someone to let go of beloved family pet. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think people are thinking about that. They miss their pet. They're not thinking, oh, the soul doesn't go back, this, that. Most people, they're very attached. It's like a member of the family, right? Doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Soul doesn't go back. Whatever the case is, the animal's just buried and nothing else happens to it. Okay, but I think it's much more than that. They're attached. They're totally attached to the animal. It's like part of the family. So it's part of the family. It's a different issue. It's hard to let go. I just saw someone put up. They had a dog. A number of years ago was mauled by a fox. So I don't know if it's the yurt site, it's the anniversary of it being mauled. I don't know exactly what, but that's what it sounds like. It's like commemoration. Commemoration of the death of their dog. Okay. Yeah. Somebody asked, the blood covered with dirt, is it washed with water? Then it's only done outside the altar. In this case, the blood for the animal that's not going on the altar is it's covered by dirt, right? Not covered by water, it's covered by dirt or straw, right? Or water would be the opposite effect, right? Just going to dilute it and spread it. So here, more dignified, is covered, right? Even if it's not all of it's covered, even if some of it it's covered, right? The blood that goes on the altar, yeah, it's also, it's also not diluted. Not spray. It's sprayed on the altar, right? Or I don't know exactly. It's whatever. sprayed on the altar. Yeah, if it's sprayed on the altar or poured on the altar, right? There's no dilution there. Shouldn't be any dilution of water or anything else. Does blood leave a smell? Oh, even if it would, one of the miracles in the temple was you never had flies there. It's one of the miracles. You never had, even if you had rotting meat there, let's say, could happen. Let's say there was rotting meat there. Okay, yeah, but it's brought down that there were never any flies. There were never any bad smells. You would think, got all these carcasses, all these dead animals, and whatever around, or blood on the altar. Who knows what? It should be a bad smell, but there wasn't. Right in the temple, there wasn't. Does blood have a smell in general? Normally not. The smell would come from the animal, right? It would come from the decaying animal, but not from the blood. Is it going to attract insects? Oh, that's the question. If it's not covered, what's it going to do? It's going to attract any insects? I don't know about that. Might. Definitely might, but that's not the reason you cover it. It's definitely not the reason you cover it. But yeah, I guess if you left it open, it could be. All right, but that's not the reason why you cover it. You cover it because the soul's in the blood. Right? That's why it's covered. Someone here mentions people have been killing these invasive moths, stepping on them, and you see the blood splatter. Ew. You see the blood splatter. Sorry, the blood of insects has to be covered. No, again, it's only for something you're going to eat, right? It's only an animal. It's going to be ritually slaughtered, right? But anything else, you kill it, and let's say, I don't know. Let's say it squishes. You squished it, and all this blood came out. That's not an insect's not an issue, right? Anything you're not going to eat is not an issue. Definitely, definitely not an issue with that. Somebody asked, does the blood of an animal or human anger Hashem because he never intended for blood to be spilled? No. God allowed, right? Unless you are what's it called? Vegetarian, right? Which vegetarians will say, according to creation, we should all been vegetarian, right? That's a higher level. It's a higher spiritual level to be a vegetarian than eat meat. But God allowed Noah to eat meat, right? He saw there was a need and a desire to eat meat. So if there's a need and desire to eat meat, then spilling the blood of an animal, right, for ritual slaughter, let's say, that's okay. That's not a problem. That is definitely not a that's not an issue, right? That wouldn't be an issue because again, you're slaughtering the animal for food, right? What if you killed an animal, in general, or I don't know, let's say better. Let's say an animal tried to cross the street, got ran over by a car, right? Splat. Animal goes splat. Yeah, blood comes out of the animal, whatever, animal dies. Yeah. So is God going to care really that the animal died? No. I was actually learning something earlier that about divine providence, how divine providence works for humans, for animals, and what's divine providence by animals, what they're going to be used for. Right? In other words, the animal could be used for their hide, could be used for, I don't know, could be used for scientific experimentation, cure diseases, could be used for food, different things. So, does God know which animal is going to go where? Yeah, he's in charge of that, right? He's in charge, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if they're used for this, used for that, right? They have to be given instincts how to, save themselves from being prey by other animals. And if God has a purpose for this animal, insect, whatever, he's going to preserve it. He's going to keep it around. So you see, there are animals that either are extinct or almost extinct. So you say, what's the purpose of that? And the simple answer is because God doesn't need them. Animals have a purpose. God's going to make sure they're going to be, for instance, they're going to be enough, let's say, it's going to be enough chickens around so people can eat them. That there shouldn't be a shortage. Now, sometimes there is a shortage for different reasons, but in general, he's going to make sure that doesn't happen, right? So he has to put in the back of his mind, front of his mind, how many cows have to be around and have to survive in order for people to be able to eat them, right? So there is providence. There is divine providence, on that, but he also, unless he doesn't need them anymore, will let them just get all eaten up or mauled or who knows what, and they'll disappear. Now, why would he do that? For any animal or let's say, there was talk about certain fish that have been, so trapped for years, that, some fish are like an endangered species, right? Because we just eat them, eat them all the time. Now, could be God's not going to allow certain fish, let's say, to go extinct because people eat them. So you need a lot of them to be around. Very good. But what if God doesn't need them anymore? You don't want a man to eat them anymore, so I'll make them go extinct. For sure, I'll make them go extinct. He doesn't need them, right? So blood of an animal, again, God saves certain animals. He speaks, when he speaks to Job, at the end of the book of Job, there's certain birds that, what do? They pretty much try and kill their offspring, for whatever reason. And God says, well, I saved them. I saved the offspring because I want them to be around. Why the bird has that nature, I don't know. It's the way God made it. Very good. But he says, I take care of the offspring to make sure they don't die because I want them to have a next generation. Right? So God's in charge of that. So, what about animals that prey on other animals and eat them? Okay. Yeah, does God care that they get eaten up? I don't think so. I don't think it matters, right? They have a purpose. Every animal has a purpose. Every insect has a purpose, whether we figured it out or not. They have, some sort of purpose. So if God wants them in the world, he'll make sure they stay in the world and they're able to survive. They won't get destroyed. If he doesn't need them anymore, what will happen? They'll disappear. Right? Now, just because there are certain, species of animals that are, they don't have, not so many of them left either because they've been hunted or they died off or whatever the case is. So you say to God, for whatever reason, doesn't want them to be around anymore. Or he's going to save them, make sure they survive, make sure the species survives. Again, anyone's reason can be just as valid as mine. For whatever reason, he's going to keep them around. But it doesn't mean that they're going to stay around, per se, if he doesn't need them. Right? So that's, making an animal suffer, that'll bring about God's anger. Spilling blood for whatever reason, that shouldn't, unless it's cruel or it's forbidden to do in such a case, then, God might get angry. But in general, unless the person would be cruel to animals or even animals being cruel to other animals, God made them that way. So why should he care if they, let's say you get a bunch of hyenas or wild dogs, that prey on an injured lion. So you got 4 or 5 dogs, and this lion is injured. Now, what should normally happen unless other lions come to his defense? What's going to happen? They're going to rip it to shreds, right? 4 or 5 strong dogs. This lion's wounded, right? Maybe the lion will survive or not. Because hey, come on, they're going to rip this animal to shreds. They're going to rip the lion to shreds. Okay. Now let's say they do. Now, any lion lovers out there, let's say they do. Okay. These dogs rip it to shreds, eat it up, and that's it. God care about it? I don't think so. That's the way of the world. So, this animal is destined to die that way. That's what happens. That's it. The other animals ate him. He's not going to, I don't think he's going to care about that. Right? If people are cruel to animals, that's a different issue. But animals to other animals, God programmed them. right? So if they spill other blood of other animals or wound them or whatever, yeah, God gonna get upset. Why should he get upset? He programmed them to do that. Now he could stop them if he wanted to, right? But if he wants to keep that species alive, he'll make sure they stay alive. If he wants them to die off, same thing. But if they die off in a cruel way, all the animals come and like just destroy this whole species. God gonna get upset? I don't think so. Why don't I think so? Because he doesn't care. He wants that animal species to die, right? If it's man being cruel, that's a different issue. That's a very different issue. Somebody here asks, who cleaned the altar and how often? Well, the ashes were cleaned by the Kohanim, right? They were cleaned by the Kohanim. Why they clean it? Right? Why did they why did they have to clean, the ashes, so to speak? So the simple answer is in order to make the Kohanim humble. Right? One way to make them humble is they have to clean up the mess. Now, they're the ones who made the mess. Okay. So it's also a part of part of humility. Part of humility to have them do it so they won't think they're so, God's gift to the world, so to speak. And they're so lofty when the reality is they have to clean up their own mess. Now, how often they clean is a good question. They had blood that flowed away outside to the Kidron River. Some farmers use it as fertilizer, right? The ones that didn't have to be covered. The question is how I guess they did keep it clean, right? To a good extent. It's brought down in Midos chapter 3. Altar and the ramp will be cleaned every Friday. The cloth because of the blood. Now the question is, what was he doing? What were they doing there? They're wiping it, whitewashing it. They had to be careful also. They didn't want it necessarily to land on, on the veil, let's say in the Holy of Holies. So they had to be careful with that as well. There's a Gemara that says that one of the rabbis saw a curtain in the treasury in Rome. It had blood on it. It had specks of blood on it. So seemingly it was cleaned. I mean, how often? Not clear. But I would say this probably wasn't cleaned that often, right? I would assume it wouldn't be cleaned. It wouldn't be cleaned that often. That's what I would. That's what I would say on that. Let me see other questions. How often sounds kind of messy, yeah, but I would assume, if they had to walk around in that area, it had to be cleaned, at some level. Otherwise, not only get totally dirty, but maybe it could slip on stuff and other things. So it probably had to be cleaned at some point, right? Would I say every day, every other day? I don't know. It depends how many animals were slaughtered up there. I'm not really sure. Going not supposed to be around the dead. That's a person, right? Dead animals are allowed to be around, right? Now, if you had a ritually slaughtered animal, it's one thing. But what if an animal died on its own? Right? So you could have a case where if an animal died on its own or something like that, could render someone impure. Right? But here, if they're slaughtering animals, even if they're using the animal just to go on the altar, right? Let's say a burnt offering, right? The whole point of burnt offering is it goes on the altar and it gets burnt, nothing else, no one else gets any food from it or anything from the animal. So that's not a problem. right? No, but normally we say when we talk about ritual impurity, it's talking about coming in contact with dead body, not dead animal per se. And even a dead animal, if you tell me it's ritually slaughtered, that wouldn't make them impure. That would make them impure. Could be, an animal died by itself. I don't think so. I still don't think it makes them impure. I'll double check that. I don't think that makes them impure. It's only if they ritually slaughtered an animal, what makes them impure? It's only coming in contact with dead body, right? That's the highest level of impurity. It's a dead body. I let it equate with these animal sacrifices, other priests do the sacrifices. Okay, answer that. Do animals have to suffer for medical experiments? Any way to test cosmetics or so on? If there's no better way, you trust them on animals. Why would animals be used? Medical experiments, medical experiments to cure disease. Right? You want to tell me cosmetic surgery, other things? I'd probably say not. Right? But if you would tell me you're testing certain medication, see what it does, you can test it on an animal, test it on an animal. Right? Unless, humans are going to take it or whatever. Right? That's okay. Why? Because trying to cure disease. So use an animal for that. That's, again, the Peter or pet activists, whatever you call them, they'll be jumping up and down. That's cruel. Why is that cruel? We can use animals for whatever we want as long as we don't abuse them. That's not abuse. That has a purpose. Even to kill an alligator so I can have alligator skin boots has a purpose. Or killing all those minks to have a fedora, right? Have one of these Hasidic hats. Yeah. You're gonna say, well, you scrape their skin off, it's cruel. So, okay, so kill the animal first, and then you do it. But that has a purpose. This has a purpose. What's the purpose? What's the purpose? Curing disease. If you want to tell me cosmetic surgery, I don't know if that's such a purpose. I don't know if you can do certain things on animals for that. I mean, maybe you could. Maybe you could. Maybe that's considered a purpose. I don't think so. I don't. There's a big question about cosmetic surgery, whether it should be done or not. Depends for what. Right? If a person's going to do it, just make themselves look younger. You want to see how it's going to be done on an animal. That for sure not. That if it had a purpose, if cosmetic surgery had a purpose, right? It's a much bigger question. But if it had a purpose, it had a good purpose. Then why couldn't you do it on an animal? It's got a purpose. But if it's only done because I don't know, person wants to make themselves look younger and they don't want to age and this and that, so yeah, I guess on an animal that would be forbidden. But testing cosmetics, I would think not. I would think that should be forbidden. Test them, that might be considered cruel. There's no real purpose in it. Right? It's talking about, skin grafting and other things, and you do it on an animal. Okay, that has a purpose. Right? That has a purpose. But cosmetic surgery in general, right? Again, there's a very, very serious question if a person can do it at all. Why? Because you're really making a wound in the body. It's going to make the body better, in theory. Make the body look younger and this and that, but, you do it so many times, it's going to backfire eventually. But, have other effects. But in general, causing a wound in the body, not so simple. Right? If it doesn't have a serious purpose, can't do it. Right? You wouldn't be allowed to do it. Yeah, other questions. Ashes are mentioned in the Siddur, right? What are the ashes for? The ashes, let's say they had burnt out offering. Yeah. So what happens when you burnt up an offering? You got a barbecue, you got ashes. Right? So who cleans the ashes? Kohen. Right? That's for humility. You made the mess, you clean it. Right? You can't say, I have this lofty position and you're going to support me, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Very good. But God reminds them. He reminds them that they have to show humility. How do they show humility? Taking out the trash, right? So to speak. Somebody mentioned, think it's strange, the pig's heart valve is like a human's. Well, who was the first person? Anyone remember? I could be wrong, but I do remember back in the day, the first person to have a pig heart put inside them because couldn't get a heart transplant or whatever. John Wayne. I think John Wayne was one of the first person that had it lived a certain amount of time. Right now, you're allowed to do that. You'd be allowed to do that, save your life. Right? That something trafe like a pig is not forbidden. Get benefit from. If it was something that was used for idolatry, then it would be forbidden. Even to save your life, that'd be forbidden. Right? But if that's the only way to keep a person alive, you're not going to stay alive that long. I don't know, someone had a pig heart. What was the, I don't know, maybe, see what Rabbi Dr. Google says. How long someone lived. Let's see if he knows. One person lived 6 weeks, 2 weeks than the first recipient. Okay. Yeah, it's only a few months, wasn't very long. Someone said died after 2 months. That was 2 years ago. Yeah, it's not gonna be very long. Doesn't seem very long. But I do remember. I think John Wayne did it. I think he had a pig's heart. Uh, uh, yeah, he's got a pig valve in him. That was it. He had heart surgery in 1978. It says. Okay. Yeah, but only 10 months. It only lasted 10 months. So again, it's not very long, right? Certainly not very long with a pig's heart. But you could have a pig's heart in you because it's not forbidden to get benefit from. Right? That would be okay. But again, person's not going to last that long with it. How do these conscious balance tension between acknowledge the sanctity of life and necessity of taking life for sustenance? Well, again, what's the problem? What's the problem? They're doing God's holy work. They're allowing people to eat meat. They're allowing Jews to eat meat, right? Jews like to eat meat. Yeah, meat, chicken, other things. Jews are big in meat. Very good. So what's the problem? No balance. Now, how can a person do it? You get numb to it eventually. You take an animal's life or whatever. I don't know. People that do that have an affinity for blood anyway, so it doesn't really bother them, so much. So again, taking life of an animal for the sake of meat is okay. God understood we have a desire for meat, so he allowed us to eat meat, but you have to, ritually slaughter it in the right way. How does kosher blood removal and slaughter impact global food security? I can't answer that. I would say that, in Germany and other places, they, pride themselves in putting blood in food. Yeah. Not saying across the board, but there are plenty of recipes that have blood in it. They have, they use whatever type of animal they use, for blood, blood have a purpose in general, high in protein. I don't think so. Blood should, in the bigger scheme of things, I don't think it has much of an impact on anything, except for the fact that the Torah says that the soul is in the blood. Right? That's the impact it has. Does it have any other impact on global food security? I don't think so. I don't think it has any other impact. Get rid of the blood. Blood is totally useless. What are people going to do with it? Some people, again, some people may, part of a recipe is put blood in it. Okay. Yeah, but for the most part, it's not going to have any impact, right? Except what the Torah says. That's like eating the soul of the animal, right? That's the difference. I don't, as humane standards go, if they had a steak recipe or something, a person went to a restaurant and they put blood in it, they're going to shut them down? I don't think so. That's not inhumane. I don't think it's considered inhumane. Serve all kinds of crazy things. In some places that's, you could ask the question. Blood, I don't think we'd even ask the question on that. Shouldn't experiments in human disease be done on humans? Yeah. Now let's say that you had you have this drug's not proven. You don't necessarily know what the side effects could be. Now, you could say, what point is kill a bunch of animals testing the COVID vax? They just gave it to humans. Yeah, but the main humans that gave them to first was Israel. We were the guinea pigs, of using that. But the whole point is they want to get a vaccine out so fast. They had enough humans that had it to test it. They didn't have to do it on animals. That was the claim. Whether the claim is true or not, okay, that's that we can have it. That we could have a discussion on. But someone would only be part of an experiment if there's no other way to cure them. They'd say, well, you're probably going to die anyway, so you want to take this experimental drug? I know somebody now has got a very rare skin disease, extremely rare skin disease, probably like 100 in the world. Yeah, I'm not going to kill them, but they're I don't know, I guess taking some sort of drug to put it at ease or whatever, to get the hives down and get the swelling down, and all that. I don't know if it's totally proven or not, but extremely rare. Who are you going to test it on? Right? That's the only way to get rid of it. If you don't have a choice, right? Let's say clear. Person's got whatever dreaded disease. Yeah. There's a vaccine for it or whatever, medicine for it, but they don't know the repercussions. Hasn't been approved by the FDA, let's say. Has not been proven, right? By the FDA. Now, they could say it's experimental. We don't know what's going to happen. Would you want to take it? They have people like that. They'll take it. Why will they take it? Because it's not proven, not doing it on animals. It's experimental. They don't have time to wait. That's why they would do it. They claim, again, I'm not saying the claim is true, but they make the claim. Why was the vaccine the fastest thing that ever happened? Right? Why did it happen so fast? Because they had a lot of people tested on it. They had a lot of humans tested on it, so they didn't have to test on animals. That's one of the claims. Whether it's true or not, you could argue. Maybe just propaganda. I don't know. Maybe just repeating other propaganda. But in general, if that's true, you don't have to go to animals. But let's say you don't have time. You don't have time. This is like life and death. Yeah. So you try it on a human. But how many, unless the person has some sort of disease that's either not curable or they don't know if this cures it or not, they want you to be a specimen. You don't know what the repercussions are. Would people do it? Some people would. Why would they do it? Because they have no other hope. Other people say no. I'm not going to be a guinea pig. And who knows what you're putting into me? They'll say, I'll just take my chances, and if I die, I die. Until it's proven. It might be too late. Right? So, if there are people willing to do it, good. To do it on humans. I don't think so many humans are going to, depending what their situation is, again, in general, depending on what their situation is, are they going to sign up for it? I don't think they're going to sign up for it. A lot of people wouldn't sign up for it. Not only that, people take, certain medication, whatever the medication may be, and, you read the inside, all the potential side effects. Now, let's say it's medication you have to take. Let's say it's, I don't know, high blood pressure medicine or some other type of medicine a person, is on for life, that they have to take. Now, side effects, someone told me, I forget what it was, but it was a certain thing they had to take that I don't know if they're still taking it or not, but whatever. They had to take it. There was a laundry list of about 20 different things, that side effects. Told that, nausea, pain in the back, all kinds of things. All kinds, subject to potential heart attack, stroke. I mean, the whole laundry list of things. Yeah, this is a proven, this is medicine approved. That, if you have to take it, you have to take it. I could do this, I could do that. Well, high blood pressure is a good point. People have high blood pressure, they're on medication for life. Whatever type of medication, doesn't matter. They're on certain medication for life. Yeah. Now, could that medication have side effects? Absolutely. I know someone on medication, their time feels better, sometimes not, sometimes they have the doses, they lower the doses, but there are side effects. There are definite side effects, but guess what? It's helping them in other ways. That's saving them from having a heart attack, and basically saving their lives. So, okay, so there are side effects. There could be serious side effects. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So even things that are proven and that are approved by the FDA doesn't mean they don't have side effects. Right. So I tell you, if you take certain medication, okay, you look at the side effects, but if you have to take it, you have to take it. Right. And you have faith and belief in God, it's going to take care of you. Right. And not make these side effects happen. But, you know, so COVID's a different issue. COVID's a different issue. But your question is, shouldn't experiments be done on humans? Okay. So let's say you're right. Right? If the thing hasn't been proven, unless the person is in real dire straits, yeah, why would they take it? Now, they may give them, placebo effect also to see if whatever. But in general, unless the person was in severe, in real dire straits, and this like potentially they could die. A person may, I'm not saying everybody would, a person may say, okay, I'll take my chances. Even it's experimental. What's the alternative? I know my Rebbe's wife had Alzheimer's, very young age. If you don't hit it straight away, the quicker the quicker it goes, right? So they tried different things. They tried different things to slow it down, and they help. Even experimental things, they try. But once you get to a certain point, there's nothing to do, right? So if a person, whatever the situation is, if a person's in dire straits, even if it's a drug that hasn't been proven, they'll take it. Some people would take it because they have no alternative. I mean, there is one alternative. They don't take it, and they could die. They'll die quicker. So this might slow it down, or might potentially have a positive effect. But if you don't have a chance to test it, what are you going to do? So isn't it better to test on an animal? Sure, but if you don't have time, how long it takes these things in general, in order to be approved. Again, it could be because of the pharmaceutical companies and other things. It could take years. Take at least a couple years to approve it, to have the FDA approve it. But you have to have enough people take it. That was the whole thing by COVID. That's kind of the joke by COVID. Again, whether it's true or not, you can argue. But they already had so many people that had it, tested positive for it, so they had enough of a sample. They had enough of a sample to test it, supposedly. That's why they didn't do it on animals. But if you had an opportunity to test it on animals, then if it has an effect on animals, it should affect humans, right? It should affect humans. It's going to affect them exactly the same way, maybe not. But I would ask you the question again, very simple. Very simple. Who is signing up for an experimental drug to see what happens? Unless you're in absolute dire straits, I don't think most people are signing up. I could be wrong. I'll admit, maybe majority of people would sign up for it. I'm telling you, I think people are only going to sign up for it if they're in dire straits. They have no choice. It's either take this or die, right? There's nothing else. There's no other. They don't have any other solutions. I was someone who had diagnosed stage 4 stomach cancer. Person lasted about 1.5 years. So they're going to try at some point some experimental things, but didn't get to that point. But the person would have tried. There's nothing else to do. There's nothing else to do. You take an experimental thing. Okay, maybe it'll help. Maybe it won't. But you got stage 4. You're terminal. You're in serious trouble, right? You are in serious trouble because most people die straight, relatively quickly from it, or pancreatic cancer is even worse, right? Someone, let's say, God forbid, someone had pancreatic cancer, right? You're going to die in a very short amount of time, right? That's usually the case. Yeah. Someone came up with an experimental drug Yeah. They said, you interested in taking it? If they want to extend their life or try and extend their life, they'll take it. Why will they take it? Because they have no other choice, because they know they're going to die soon. They know the alternative is they're going to die. It's no question. Right? That's why they would take it. If they had the opportunity to wait and it's not going so fast and other things, they'll wait. Right? Maybe some people would sign up for it, maybe. Right? But they want to test it first. Anyone want to sign up to be a guinea pig? I don't know. Again, I could be totally wrong. Maybe the majority of people are going to sign up. I don't know. I doubt it. I'm just saying, it's my opinion. I can't imagine people would sign up for it if not in dire straits. If they were in dire straits, you have no choice. So I'll take my chance. Right? John Wayne had no choice. So what did he do? He took part of a pig's heart. Pig's heart. That's the only thing. They could fit in there to try and keep him alive. So what it last 10 months? I thought, okay, so extended his life 10 months. He could have said no, he would have died straight away. He would have died shortly thereafter. Right? He would have lasted 2 months. But that extended his life 10 months. Okay. Question is, should you do it? Okay, it's another question. Does the person have an obligation to extend their life? No. I know someone just recently that, I don't know, they're overweight, that all kinds of things. Husband couldn't take care of his wife, and she was obese, and other things, basically put her in a nursing home, and she had kidney failure. They had kidney problems. She refused to go on dialysis. Now, what happens if you don't go on dialysis? You'll die. So I know someone happened to, before, not exactly like this, but they had similar, that was a different case. They had a kidney transplant, and the other kidney 25 years later stopped functioning or wasn't functioning, not a candidate for another kidney. So they were on dialysis, but they didn't want to stay on dialysis. Right? So since they didn't want to stay on dialysis, what's going to happen? They died like a month later, 2 months later. Right? They died. So that's my Rebbe said suicide. He said, no, person doesn't have to go through heroics. Right? Not taking medication does not mean you're committing suicide actively. Now, if you don't take the medication, what's going to happen? You'll die. Clear, you'll die. Right? So in this case, I remember, someone speaking about it. I mean, shouldn't laugh, right? Not a laughing matter here, but this person again was obese, wasn't going on dialysis. So what happened? 2 days later. It wasn't very long. The whole system shut down. Once the kidney shut down, the rest of the system shut down. That's it. They died 2 days later, 3 days later. Right? Something like that. Very short amount of time. Now, again, we hold that's all called suicide because that's not direct. Right? You're not taking medication or you're not going on dialysis. You don't want to suffer more. So if you don't want to suffer more, you don't have to. You don't have to go through that. And what if this person could have taken an experimental drug? Would they have? I don't know. I don't know if they would have or not. Right? But a person is only going to do that if they have no other choice. If they're most people, I don't think, again, I could be wrong. You can take my opinion for what it's worth. I do not think most people are going to sign up to take an experimental drug if they don't have to. They don't have to. Some people would. They say, okay, let's see what it does. So what if it hasn't been proven? Let's see. Yeah, maybe it's only politics. Maybe, really it is okay, but this haven't approved it yet. Okay, so I'll take the chance. How many people willing to do it? It's a good question. I don't think it's a high percentage unless you tell me someone had to. Unless they had no choice. Cosmetic surgery to help burn victims. Yeah, that's a different issue. That's a different issue. That has a purpose. Right? Skin graft operations, other things, that has a purpose. Right? Even if you're making a wound in the body, but a person burnt over a quarter of their body, half their body, yeah, that'd be a different issue. That'd be a different issue. There's people who don't mind being human guinea pigs for pay. Okay. That might be true. That might be true. I don't know. I personally think if all things being equal, that if they had an opportunity, to wait it out and then see if it gets approved, I would think most people would try and do that. If they're going to be paid for it, yeah, they're not going to be paid a lot for it. Not going to become rich from it, but you have people like that. Okay, right? You might have people like that. If they don't get paid, they'll do it. Fine. Is it going to be the majority of people? I'm saying I don't think it would be. Right? People could argue on that and say, no, a lot of people would. Okay, but I don't think that's the case. Is there a law that forbids plucking the eyebrows? No. Not for a woman. For a guy, yeah. For a guy, that would be a problem. What about a guy that has unibrow? Right, he's got a brow all the way across. Can he trim it? So if he wants to get married and it looks bad, he could. Right, he could. But anything that's going to do what things that are like what women do, that'd be a Torah prohibition. That'd be a Torah prohibition for a guy because the Torah says men are allowed to wear women's clothes, women aren't allowed to wear men's clothes, right? And anything that women would do for the sake of, like that, of, of making the body look more beautiful and different things like that, that would be forbidden, right? If it's exclusive to women. So unibrow might be a different issue, right? Having one eyebrow. So that I saw brought down that if a person wanted to do that for cosmetic reasons, i.e., the date because it doesn't look, doesn't look so appetizing, doesn't look so pretty, right? So that'd be allowed to do. Maybe a woman would do it, it's similar to what a woman does, but this is different, right? People may not look at this person if they have a unibrow. One second. Cohen takes the ashes out of the camp, right? It's a fish. 1 second. Let me see other questions here. Let me see. Did I take the corona vaccine? Yes. Should I have? I don't know. It's a good question. Some doctor a number of years ago said, well, whoever took it's going to die in 2 years. So, okay. So I'm still alive. Yeah, it's a lot of peer pressure to take it. But yeah, if I taken, so I took 2, right? Pretty much everyone here in Israel, I think, took 2, whoever took it. There were subsequent vaccines after that or booster shots that I didn't take. Figured if it's already in my system, I already got it. So like, there's no, there's no point. But, a lot of people said a lot of things about it. You had rabbis on both sides of the spectrum. Some said you should take it, some said you shouldn't take it. Whatever. I took it. Have you heard of a kosher pig? Nope. Maybe in the future, right? The whole question is exactly what that means. Is it really going to be kosher? It's going to change its nature? I don't think so. Right? Definitely don't think so. Yeah, what would that be? So a pig itself, will stand vindicated as a kosher animal, right? Opposed to the prance, it only has, it only has what do you call it? One kosher, one kosher sign, right? Medrash says that it will be purified, right? It says it will be purified in the Messianic era. But the problem is that if the Torah is forever, right, it's very hard to say that an animal is going to all of a sudden change from being not kosher to kosher, right? So many hold that, yeah, it doesn't mean it's going to change, right? It's really an allegory. That the pig itself, right, who destroyed Holy Temple, the Romans, and they are compared to a swine. So when the Messiah comes, even our most sworn enemies will be at peace with us if they survive, right? So it could be. It's just an allegory, and not necessarily that's going to change its nature, right? That, in other words, once it's forbidden, it's forbidden. Yeah, but a pig's different in the sense that it's got one kosher side, right? Certain animals only have one kosher side, right? They split hooves, but they don't chew their cuds, so it's Torah prohibition. So the Rambam learns that biblical prohibition, right, will not be overturned. So that's not going to happen. Seemingly, that should not. Others say no. that's going to chew its cud, and that point will be kosher when the Messiah comes. So yeah, difference of opinion over here. So even the dietary laws themselves, we don't know why things are kosher, why they're not kosher, but simply we would say that since it doesn't meet the criteria of being kosher, then it's not going to be uprooted, right? That total prohibition is never going to be uprooted, and therefore it's really an allegory, not something physical. That how could that be totally uprooted? That's hard to say. Yeah, let me see other questions here. So there says using, Israel's guinea pigs, right? And that's true. We got used guinea pigs though. Then, for whatever reason. Maybe it's a good way to try and wipe us out. I don't know. Get everyone to take the vaccine. They do give vaccine for experiments on foster kids. People don't care about. Could be. That could be. It's kind of crazy. If you think about it, giving certain things that, have not been proven. That they'll give people to they'll give people to test it. Somebody here asked, could it be that pharmaceutical some sort of idolatrous scheme? Oh, they're out to make money. They are out to make money. They made a lot of money. Yeah, this whole thing with Fauci and this whole thing with Corona. I mean, they made a mint, an absolute mint. So pharmaceutical companies are out there to make money. They are absolutely out there out money, not necessarily to save lives. Right? It's unfortunate to say, but a lot of proof to that, and in a lot of ways. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone there says, yeah, they couldn't find a hot for John Wayne. Guess not. Yeah, I don't know all the particulars of that. Again, even if people get paid, let's keep in mind, even if people get paid for, take certain medication or certain things. I mean, how much are they getting paid? They're getting paid tens of thousands of dollars, or they're getting paid something minimal. Or maybe maybe they're getting paid something in between. I don't know. But, I don't know. If people only do it for money, I would think if someone's going to do it, you have to do it for a significant amount of money. I wouldn't do it for, someone's going to take an experimental drug for, $10 an hour. I don't think so. Right? Maybe they would. They just need the money. I don't know. I don't know. Israel scientists are creating pig meat in the lab. Yeah, so it's not. So even if they did, why would it be kosher? Right? It's got all the characteristics of a pig, right? So, it's meat created in a lab. In general, this is all controversy. This is all controversy because if it's really created in a lab, it's not created as part of the animal, then yeah, you could eat it. Really, you should be able to eat it. What about genetic cloning? Could you clone, an animal like in a petri dish, and clone it, or whatever? You put it back in the stomach of the animal or whatever, right? To do it. So yeah, cloning is a big issue. It's a big issue, but yeah, you could have meat that is made in a petri dish or whatever, and doesn't come from an animal, so it's not meat. It's not meat. So yeah, this is the whole question. This whole question, plucking eyebrows. For a woman, it's not a problem. Again, for a man, it would be more of a problem. Medical crimes. One second. Medical crimes like Nazis never went away. Yeah, listen, I don't know if it's to the extent of what what Mengele did. Yamach Shemo B'Zichro, may his name be blotted out, may rot wherever he is, right? But I don't know if what they're doing today, people taking experimental drugs, is that the same thing? I mean, he tortured people. I think that's very different. Some may say, well, what they're doing today is similar. Okay, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. And people, I would think people do have a choice. Tell me that there are certain groups that don't have a choice of being, they're being used or whatever. So, that'd be a bigger problem. That'd be, a bigger problem. But yeah, scientific experimentation in general should be forbidden. Again, but why would a person do it? Why? So do it on animals, not a problem, right? Why would a human do it? So either forced into it, right, or they feel they don't have a choice, because of where they're holding the world, where the body, let's say, where the body is holding. So they don't have a choice, so they'll take their chance, right? Again, me personally, I don't think most people would do it. They don't if they have another choice, right? Some would, but I don't think it's a majority. I definitely don't think it's a majority. Just make it easy on its own shit so it chews its cud. It was made that way. It was made not to chew its cud. Why should we change it? Why in the world should we change it? Right? In other words, so it's a very good point. If the Torah forbids it, it's only got one physical character trait that that makes it that one kosher character trait. Why do we try and recreate it or do anything else? Right? You're not going to change the way it's made. That's the way it's made. Right? So you have these funny things today. People making meat in petri dishes and cloning and other things. I mean, you're playing around with creation here. But God doesn't stop you. You could do it. Right? Certain things God made that are sterile so they can't reproduce. Okay. They won't be able to reproduce. That shows God didn't necessarily want you to do it, but it didn't stop you. So these things also doesn't stop a person necessarily from doing it. The question is, should a person do it? Right? That's the whole question. Right? Seemingly, you're playing with fire, and that shouldn't be done. Right? In general. But if something is prohibited from the Torah, why should we try and fix it? Why should you try and fix it, make it kosher? It's measures that says that, it's going to start chewing its cud. The animal's going to start chewing its cud. Good question. So many say that no, it's not physical. It's never going to change its character traits. That's the way it is. That's the way it's made. It'll always be forbidden, and that's it. And others say it's an allegory, right? It's an allegory. But if God created it a certain way, why would he change it? Right? So it could be, there are allegorical answers why, whatever. But in general, God made something forbidden from the Torah. Why would he permit it in the end of days? After the end of days. Right? I would say it wouldn't make so much logical sense. Once it's forbidden, it's forbidden. Someone asks, do you think actually forcing Israel, the Jews were part of the bigger plan? Maybe. Maybe, but I think they understood enough of what it was going to do. It wasn't going to kill people, right? Per se, even though some people died from it. Either people had heart attacks or different things that they covered up pretty well, but it wasn't the majority by any stretch. But was that part of their bigger plan to get rid of the Jews? I don't know. I don't know if that was their intent. Could be. It could be. But listen, a lot of people got caught up in it. A lot of people were scared. Whether they should have been or not, a different issue. But they did a good job of scaring a lot of people. So I say, you take this, it won't be as bad. But I will say one thing. The only thing I'll say about it, even if the numbers are skewed, how many people died from COVID, which is probably skewed, right? But still, tens of thousands of people died from it, let's say. Any other disease that a person may potentially get, they would do anything not to get it because they know it kills people, right? Or it's got the potential to kill people, right? What boggled my mind more than anything else, besides the fact the medical establishment didn't know what they were doing, and that was clear, according to everybody, made them look really stupid. That's one lesson you learn out from it. But I found it incredulous that people saying it's like the flu and so many people died from it. Well, there were 100,000 people died from it. Now, even the numbers are skewed. And you'll tell me anyone who had COVID in their system, they died, they'll say, oh, they died from that. You might not have died from that. Okay. So even if the numbers are skewed, I would ask a very simple question. And my question would be, this is like playing Russian roulette. If a person gets it, now we saw that we're perfectly healthy people, 20s, 30s that got it, and it killed them. They had no other issues, seemingly no other medical issues, and it killed them. A week, 2 weeks, whatever. Right? Now, let's just say, for argument's sake, that's true. But the majority of people who died at compromising situations, they're older, the body was weaker, they couldn't fight it as well, whatever. It overcame them and killed them. Okay. So people had other conditions and different things. It affected them much worse. Okay. Well, let me ask. I'll ask a very, very simple question. If it has the potential to kill, and it does, now you can tell me it's no better than the flu, this and that, whatever. It has the potential to kill. So I would ask a very, very simple question. Is anyone willing to take the chance to get it? You'll say, just like the flu, I'll take the chance. Right? So you say, fear and guilt. Okay. But I'm asking, in the States, how many people die of the flu every year? That's why a lot of people, they get older, get the flu shot. How many people die? 50,000? 70,000 a year? Right? Someone asked me, whatever, last winter, said, you get the flu shot? I said, no. Because I don't think I'm going to die from it. Yeah, I'll get sick, a few days, feel awful. I'll get over it. This was more than the flu. But you're right. It was fear. They did a good job, right? Fear, guilt, no question. But again, there were perfectly healthy people that died from it. I'm just saying, there were. You're going to tell me it was very few and this and that. Okay. That's true. Even at the very, very small percentage. What if you were the lucky one to get it and died from it? And you were totally healthy. You wouldn't be, although you wouldn't be listening to this anyway, right? But I just found it, incredulous that it would be something someone would take a chance because the numbers were so high. Now again, even those numbers were half that. Still a lot of people. Most people who got it, if they were healthy, relatively healthy, okay, so for a week they felt awful. That's it. Yeah, they got over it. Okay. But for other people, by other things, they take all kinds of precautions. Yes, they want to tell me this is a whole fluke. There's a whole different thing. Could be. Even if a lot of quote unquote diseases out there are not going to kill a person, and it's a very slim chance the person would kill, wouldn't a person, if you have a vaccine that's proven, wouldn't a person take the vaccine so they wouldn't get it? I would think they would. Some people say vaccines could kill you anyway. You're putting poison in your body. Yeah, it's a whole question about vaccines also. But someone wanted to protect themselves. The vast majority of people get vaccines, don't die from it. They don't have seemingly repercussions from it, usually. Yeah. So why wouldn't you take it as a precaution? You have an obligation to guard your body. 100%. To me, that was the most incredible thing of the whole thing. Is that people would play Russian roulette. They'd say, okay, I'll take my chance. A lot of people died from it. Again, you can tell me it was propaganda, it was fair, it was this, it was that. Could be. It could be. Right? But at the end of the day, there were cases of people who died from it. Perfect healthy. Right? They're perfect health. Yeah. So, is it worthwhile? Someone's like, oh, I would never do that. Yeah. You got people that vape, but they wouldn't put a needle in it, they wouldn't take the vaccine. Like, come on. It's a little bit much. You're not gonna take the vaccine, so you can't vape either, right? Anyway, whatever. That could be a whole conspiracy. It could be a whole conspiracy because I would agree that anyone who had COVID in their system, they just said they died from COVID. So that could, split the number down quite a bit. Okay. Still a significant number. It's not a small number. Definitely not a small number. But you're right. Vast majority of people are healthy. Even if they got it, they'll feel awful, whatever, and that's it. They'll get over it. Right? They'll get over it. But is that something worthwhile to take the risk. So to me, that was pretty incredulous. Say, okay, brainwashed by the media, brainwashed by everyone telling you, and the fear that there was fear. Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily it wasn't unfounded. I don't think it was unfounded. Other people may argue, but I don't necessarily think it was it was totally unfounded. Can Orthodox Jews do a DNA ancestry test? Yes, but it won't matter. Right? If a non-Jew does it, doesn't matter. Doesn't account for anything, and it won't prove Jewishness. And if a Jew did it, so yeah, there are testing that let's say Ashkenazic Jews do, for certain if two people get together have the same potential gene, there's certain genes the person gives to their kids that could kill them, right? That could definitely kill them. So if someone's dating, right? They took the genetic testing and they see if they're comparable. If they're not comparable, they won't let them date, right? If one has it or whatever, they won't let them date, right? Or both have it, let's say. They don't tell who has it either, right? But yeah, genetic testing is a big thing, just so you don't, certain diseases you don't get, you don't pass on to your kids, which could be catastrophic, absolutely catastrophic. So, can they do a DNA ancestry test? They can, right? See where they come from. For a non-Jew, it doesn't prove anything. Even if they have Jewish blood, it doesn't prove anything, right? It won't help for conversion. Unless they know specifically they have certain family members that, were known to be Jewish and this and that, but like a DNA test in general won't prove anything. Someone mentioned most people died from COVID and underlying health problems, right? I agree. How the people weren't dropping. I agree. I'm just saying was it worth to take the risk? Some people would say, yeah, it's a very small percentage. Anyone's going to get it, but they're willing to take the risk. Okay. Right. I think it was a risk. I think it was a risk. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm gonna have to end shortly. That's why Russian went with the vax, right? Right. That is true. Listen, the truth is coming out now. They're saying, finally admitting that actually came out of a lab, right? And everyone thought that was a conspiracy theory, but yeah, everything's coming out. But yeah, eventually it does. Is that playing with God when you get certain markers and assume your child will get it? Question is, that's a good question. It's a much bigger question, though, and that is what, how much he started with, how much of putting my best foot forward do I have to do, and how much do I rely on God? Yeah, there was a case a few years ago, in New York area, outbreak of measles. Now, some parents wouldn't vaccinate their kids. Now, there was a whole question that their kids are out of school because the schools won't accept their kids if they're not vaccinated. Okay. Now, what do you do with those kids? So now they're complaining the kids are out of school. On the other hand, if they're not vaccinated, there are other issues. All right. So the head of the yeshiva in Lakewood contacted my Rebbe, asking this question. What do you do with thousands of kids out of school? So he said, if it's 1 in 1,000, that was his analysis. If 1 in 1,000 can get it, could be dangerous, then you don't let them in. So he said he said the marker was 1 in 1,000. So there is a big question: how much of putting my best foot forward do I have to do? Right? You got to protect yourself. You got to protect your kids. Now, what if you're brainwashed and it all backfires and this and that? Okay. But guess what? If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And people got sick and died from it or had heart attacks from it, they were meant to die that. That's just how they died. Right? You're going to say it's unfortunate and this and that. Okay. There are a lot of people that, blood clots, had other problems. It's also true. But if we believe in God, isn't that what's supposed to happen to them? Yeah, it's just a question, if a person dies, nobody cares how you died. Sometimes more tragic, less tragic. But bottom line is, God took you in that way. Right? That's the bottom line. You say, Oh, a person took the vaccine, dropped dead of a heart attack. Well, that person had a death sentence on them. And the only question is how they're going to die. So God took them that way. Could have taken them other ways? Sure. Could they just drop dead of a heart attack and died? Yeah, but they died this way. Doesn't matter. It was meant for them to go. That was their time to die. How they died doesn't matter. I can still hear my Rebbe's son, like, I asked him once that, someone passed away. So I asked him, I said, what happened? How'd they die? He goes, what do you care how they died? They died. God took them. That's how they went. That's it. Yeah, some things are more tragic. I agree. I agree. Some are more tragic, some are less tragic, but if it's your time to go, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Say, oh, you got brainwashed. Look at that person. Got brainwashed, took the vaccine, dropped dead of a heart attack. Well, woe to him. Well, you know what the Jewish approach is? The Jewish philosophical approach is they were meant to die anyway. That's just how God took them. You can say, oh, but they brainwashed, they wouldn't have died that way. They would have died some way else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how they died. Question is they died, finished. They got brainwashed and that's all coming out, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. That is how God took them. Yeah, I know somebody, great rabbi, had knee surgery, fell on ice, had knee surgery. Knee surgery was successful, then had other complications in the hospital and died. Why? Because God took him. That's how he took him, but it was knee surgery. Knee surgery doesn't kill anyone. Usually doesn't kill anyone, but they had complications afterward. I don't know, the person had a heart attack or something happened. I don't know exactly what happened, but the person died. Anyone normally die from knee surgery? The person wasn't that old, right? Not gonna die from knee surgery in general. Not gonna happen. So what happened? God took him. That's how he took him. That's exactly how he took him. Anyway, you're right. Even if they were murdered, it doesn't matter. That's how he took them, right? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Sunday. 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, feel free. Find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, ethics of the fathers. Also this book of Leviticus. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day.